Hey guys, welcome back to PowerApps Learning channel. In today's video, we will be looking at how we can export the gallery records from the PowerApps to a CSV file. You have a gallery and you have some filter options provided. So when user applies filter, you get the filter records in the gallery and user wants to export it to CSV file or Excel file. So we are going to look at how we can do that and what are the limitations of the different approaches we are going to use. So before getting into the detail, let's quickly have look at the demo. This is my sample app and I have some filters here. I have a tenant and I just want, let's say I want tenants with 6 months contracts and the status is in progress. So these are the records I want these to be exported. So I've just clicked on export button and it has triggered a flow which will generate the CSV file, and you can see it already. The CSV file is generated. We can see that if we check the record, you can see that this is all 6 months contract tenant with the status in progress. I'll just close these files. Now let's just see how we have implemented it and what are the options we have. Now we of course there might be multiple options, but as far as I know, there are two options which you can use to export the data from PowerApps gallery to a CSV file. Before getting into the detail, you can generate an Excel file also. You can use Flow, you can use the Excel online business connector, but it's kind of complex flow you have to write. You have to store the Excel file as a template. You have to add the rows in the table in that Excel. You have to create the Excel file template with the table and all that. So it's a bit complex. Here in this approach, creating CSV file is really straightforward, and user can anyway it opens in the Excel client itself. User can anyway save it as a Excel file when it opens at his end. So this is pretty much accepted approach by the end users. They are okay with the CSV file also. Now coming back to the options, we have two options. Wherein first option is you can gather the data from the gallery and send it as a JSON string to the flow, and flow will create a CSV file. And the second option is you just send the filter parameters like the way we just saw. You send the filter values of project status and all that. You send the filter parameters, and in the flow you get the records from your data source using that filter parameters and generate a CSV file and send it back. Now with the first approach, the limitation is user need to keep on scrolling the gallery in order to load all the records, because in the gallery only 100 records are pulled from the data source, and if you have applied a filter and the filter is supposed to give you 500 records, so user need to keep on scrolling till it loads all 500 records, and then you can generate the data from the gallery and send it to the flow. So this is like dependency on the user to load all the data in the gallery. So whatever data is loaded in the gallery, only that will be exported with the first approach. Okay, so if the data is not loaded in the gallery, then it won't be part of your exported Excel file or CSV file. So in order to handle that, or how will you make sure that the applied filter and the data is not missing in the exported file? So to avoid that, you can go with the second option. That is what we are going to look at in this video. Is you just send the filter parameters like project is so and so, the contract date is so and so, status is so and so. Whatever user selects from your filter, you just send this filter parameters and you generate the filter query in the flow and generate CSV or table, create a CSV file and respond back with the URL of the file. So let's just jump into the actions, what we need to do. So as I said, we'll be using the second approach, which is you don't have limitations over here. You will be able to export all the records from your data source which are matching with the filtered what user have applied in the PowerApps. So we need to send the filter parameters, trigger the flow, generate the filter query, get the items, create CSV file, generate the CSV file, and respond back the URL. Let's just look at the. So first we'll look at the app. App is straightforward. You just have a gallery control here. We have some filter drop downs, and in here, if you look at the items property of the gallery, uh, filter function, this is my data source, and I have filtered on 3 different columns or 3 different fields, which is project, contract, and status. So first I'll be looking at if the drop down value is selected, if it has to match here. If it is not selected and if it is set to all, then many of you might not be aware of this approach, how to get all the records if you apply this, if you apply the filter. So to do this, you have to add all or anything, whatever text is you think that this is convenient for your requirement or for your application, you can add that here. Let's say I want to show all projects, all contracts, all status. So I've just added all. When it is all, we are not going to apply the filter. And when it is actual value other than or all, then we will apply the filter. So how to handle this is you just add a or condition here, and you can see that. So project is so and so if it is selected, or the value in the drop down is all. So it will return true, and when it's true, it will return all the records irrespective of the filter value. So now this is the part of how you can filter in the gallery. And on this export button, this is I have called a triggered the flow, and you can see that this is my flow, which is with run parameter, and we are sending just 3 values here, depending on how many filter you want to apply. In my case, it's just 3 filters: project, contract, and status. So I'm just sending the selected values to this flow, and the response is the file URL which I'm setting in the variable. And once it is done, all this is done, I'm launching that URL, the exported file URL. I'm opening it using launch function. Now the main part, let's switch to the flow, wherein how we have created that flow and how we have created the query, the filter query. So you have to create a flow with, of course, PowerApps as a trigger, and then depending on how many filters you have, you just create the variables. So in my case, I have 3 filter parameters: project, contract, and status. So this is pretty straightforward. You just go ahead, initialize variable, give a name to variable. In the value, you just click on ask in PowerApps. Okay, so this will create an input parameter. So I'll just delete this. Well, you have the input parameters now, all the filter parameters which are needed. Now next main part is creating a query. Before getting into this, let me just take you through all the actions. So these 2 actions, compose and query value, is where we are generating the query. Next is the get items. As my data source is SharePoint list, we are getting the items from that list. And as you can see here, I have passed the filter query parameter here. I've generated a query, and I've sent it or passed it to this particular action. So I'm getting the tenant records from my data source. Then you have another action which is create CSV table. So see this, create CSV table. What you need is just pass the output of your previous action, which is get items values, and in the columns, if you keep it automatic, it will return all the columns from your list, including hidden columns also. So make sure you use custom, and you just provide like, okay, I want tenant name, then just pass in the column name. I want contract value. So likewise, like this, you can, let me just put it here. So like this, you can add all the columns, whatever you want it in your exported CSV file, and this will generate a CSV table. Now, next action is creating a CSV file. So we have used OneDrive action, of course. So this will create a file, CSV file in OneDrive. Create file, OneDrive for business, create file. Choose your path. You can create a separate folder, or you can create this file in the root folder also. Give a name. Usually I use timestamp, and the file content would be the output of this action, which is create CSV table. Now if you look at my actual action, which I have already configured, is I'm creating a CSV file in the root folder. As I said, the timestamp, format, datetime function, UTC now, DDMM. This is like regular. I assume that these are the basic things, you must know it already. And the extension you have to add as .csv. And this is the output of previous action. I'll just delete this action. So till now we have got the items from the list. We have created a CSV table. I'll just delete this action also. And then we have created a file in OneDrive. Now the next action is you have to create or get the URL of this file which is created, which you can respond back to the PowerApps. So this is like you just add a string variable, name it, and respond back the URL, web URL of the created file. Now to get the URL, what you have to do is use create share link by path action. You can find it easily. Create share link by path and just get the output from the previous action, which is create file. You can get the path of the file, and link type you can choose view or edit. You want user to view that file or edit the file, and make it organization, because you of course you don't want to share it outside the organization, just keep it organization. This will give you the URL of the generated file, which you can send it back. One tip here, I have added a download is equal to 1. This will download the file actually. If you don't add this, or if you don't append this parameter, it will open the Excel CSV file in the browser, in the new tab in the browser. But most of the user, like, they expect it to be downloaded locally on their machine. So you can add this parameter, download is equal to 1. Now let's just delete this and let's just get back to the query, how you can generate the query. Now if you look at this filter query parameter here, if you look at the tooltip here which is given, this is like basic OData format. You need to provide the column name. Let's say a contract is my column name, equal to, greater than, less than, whatever operators you are using, and in the single quote you need to provide the value. Now this is just one part or one parameter of the query. If you have complex query, like in my case I have 3 parameters to be passed, either you can do and or, and then you have another parameter or column which you need to pass. So here I have 3 parameters and I want to AND all the parameters. Now here writing it directly is pretty straightforward. You can do it when it is a static part. You want to hard code the query, this is fine. But when you want to generate it dynamically, depending on the values which you are getting from the PowerApps, you are getting the project value, you are getting the contract value, you are getting the status value, and you want to push this or embed these values into a query. Now to do that, I have written a function here in the compose. I have used compose action. In that compose action, I have written a concat function, because you don't know whether user have actually selected a value like this, 6 months, or user have kept it all. So you have to decide, you have to get that, understand that also, whether the value is actual value or it is all. Depending on that, you will decide whether to include that particular column or parameter in the query or not. So what I'll do, I'll just, this I have already copied it in a notepad to elaborate in detail. So you can see this is my concat function. So I'm making use of not function, equal function. This is my variable which is we are getting as input from the PowerApps. We are checking if it is all or not. So this is equal and then not. So we are checking if it is not equal. If it is not equal, then we will include this particular parameter in the query. So we will include this project equal to single quote the value which we have got from the PowerApps. Okay, so this is your first part of your query. Now as I have three parameters to be passed, I need to AND it. So you can see it here. This is my first if condition, which is checking if project is selected or not. If it is selected, we are using concat function and getting it with the AND also at the end. Now then I have next parameter to this main parent concat function, which is another if same for some next column or next parameter. Then you have contract, then you have status, it's same. Now here let's say you have a project selected, specific project, and contract and status you mentioned all. So when it is all, nothing will be added in the query, right? Because we want all the records irrespective of contract and status. But we want project which is selected. But then this and will get added at the end. So then I have added next function to remove this and if it is there at the end of this particular compose output. If it is there, then will need to remove it. So again I've first checked it. If it is there, we will remove it. So we are checking if and is there. If it is there, we are just using substring function and passing the start index and the end index. Now get back to the flow. The first, I'll put these functions, this code in the description so you can refer it. And you just modify it depending on your columns, how many columns you have. Depending on the condition also, you want to apply AND condition or condition. So this is first compose function, and then I have a query value variable where we are removing the AND which is getting added extra. If it is there, then we are removing. If it is not, of course, we are using the as is output of the compose action. Now this value is being passed here in the filter query, which will generate. So if I show you let's just go back and see here the already ran instance of the flow to see how we get the. So if you see here, this is how the actual output of the compose action would be. Contract is equal to 6 months, approval status is equal to in progress. Now if you see, I had selected project all, that's why it was not part of the query. Okay, and in the query value again it is same because there is no and here, so it will not remove anything, it is as is, and this is what it is passed to the get item action, this query. This will give you all the records matching to this filter query. Now the one more thing to tell you here is in this get item action, if you go to the settings, you just enable this pagination and you can add here 5,000, 10,000 depending on you think that much is expected, you can add that. So this will make sure that you will get all those 5,000 records from your data source for the matching filter query. Now if you look at the earlier approach which we discussed in the presentation, this won't be possible to get all the 5,000 records in the PowerApps in your gallery and then you export it, you send it to the flow. It will be like user need to keep on scrolling and scrolling to load all that data in the gallery first and then click on export. That doesn't make sense. So you just want to apply the filter and click on export so that he can play around it in the Excel file. So make sure this is an important step, pagination enable and add the threshold value here. I'll just cancel this. Now let's just make sure everything is fine and we'll just do one more round of testing. Okay, you can see here I have created 5 columns and passed in as this is my choice column, so you need to pass the value here, project value, apartment value, and we have used it here in this create file, create share link by path, and responding back with the download parameter. So I'll just save this. I hope we have not made any unexpected change in this. I'll just save this and let's just go back to the PowerApps. Just refresh it, let's reset everything and let's select particular tower annually, and I want all approved records. So let's say there are 4. Of course, this is my dummy data. I just have limited data here. In actual scenario, it could be hundreds and thousands of records where this approach will really help you. So let's just click on export and let's wait for the CSV file to be generated and downloaded automatically. So you can see it's already here. Let's just open it. Now for the Excel file, if you have any other simple option rather than going with the template and adding the rows in the table in the Excel file, if you have any better approach, you can put it in the comment. I would love to hear about it. But this is just simple approach. What I found is creating a CSV file. You can see that this already here, and user can easily save it as Excel file. So that should not be a problem with the end user. Yeah, that's it, I guess, in this video. So I hope this will help you guys. I'll put all the functions in the description so you can refer that. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. And let me know in the comments if you have any questions or if you have any better approach. You can put it in the comment. I would love to know about it and I'll try to answer your questions. Thank you so much for watching again. Have a good day, and uh, we'll try to upload another video soon. So try to like, share, subscribe, and yep. Thank you. Bye bye.